Most people notice a change in someone's tone. But she noticed a change in his entire world the moment the door closed behind them. Myra had known Ethan for years, or at least she thought she did. He was the quiet type. Polite. Careful. Always speaking like he might break something if he used the wrong word. But that evening, something in him felt shifted. Not dangerous. Not unkind. Just different. It all began right after the small gathering at their friend's apartment. Everyone else had left, and she was waiting for her rideshare to arrive. The hallway was cold, so Ethan offered for her to step inside while she waited. She didn't think much of it. It was Ethan, after all. The same Ethan who once apologized to a houseplant for bumping into it. But the moment they were in his living room, just the two of them, Myra sensed something she could not name. He stood a little closer. His eyes held a different tone. And the air between them felt strangely delicate. Not heavy. Not romantic in an overwhelming way. Just a quiet shift she had never seen in him before. She tried to shake off the feeling. "It's freezing out there," she joked softly. "I know," he said. His voice had a warmth to it she hadn't heard earlier that night. She tucked her hands into her sleeves and sat at the edge of his couch. He didn't take the other end like she expected. He sat beside her. Not too close. But close enough that she noticed. It startled her more than it should have. Ethan usually kept polite distance from everyone. Even when they hugged hello, he barely let his arms settle around her. She tried to act normal, forcing a small laugh. "You're quieter than usual," she said. He shook his head. "No. I'm just finally not around 12 people talking over each other." That made her smile. Ethan's humor was gentle, almost shy. Still, she couldn't ignore that feeling. That shift in his tone. That way he kept glancing at her like he was checking if she was okay, or maybe like he was trying to say something without opening his mouth. She cleared her throat. He noticed instantly. "You all right?" he asked. "Just thinking." "About what?" She hesitated. He waited. He always waited. That was another thing about him, he never rushed her, not even in casual conversations. But the way he waited now felt different. More focused. More intentional. So she changed the subject. "The decorations were nice tonight." "Yeah," he said quietly. "But you looked nicer." She blinked. Her heart tripped over the words. Ethan didn't compliment people casually. In all the years she'd known him, the closest he'd come was once telling her that her handwriting was surprisingly neat. But this was not handwriting level. She turned to him slowly. "What did you say?" she asked. He didn't look away. That stunned her most of all. Ethan always looked away first. "I said you looked nice," he repeated, softer this time. She could feel warmth spreading up her neck. She knew he saw it. He tilted his head slightly like he was trying to understand her reaction. "I didn't expect you to say something like that," she whispered. "I know," he replied. Myra let out a shaky laugh. "You're acting different." He exhaled, and for a second it looked like he was choosing his next words with more care than usual. "I'm not different," he said quietly. "I just don't always get the chance to be this version of myself." She didn't know what that meant. And she didn't get to ask. Because her phone buzzed, her rideshare had been delayed. Another driver had cancelled. Ethan saw her expression. "What happened?" "New driver. It'll be another 20 minutes. Then stay," he said gently. "You don't have to wait outside." She nodded, though her heart was still racing in an unfamiliar rhythm. Silence settled over the room. Not awkward. Not tense. Just charged with something she hadn't expected to feel around him. Ethan looked toward the window for a moment, then back at her. "Myra," he began slowly, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Her breath caught. "What is it?" she asked. He opened his mouth. And then stopped. The hesitation wasn't fearful. It was thoughtful. Careful. Like he wanted to make sure he chose the exact right moment. He took a breath. Then another. "Myra," he said again, "when we're not around everyone else, I feel a little different." She leaned slightly closer without realizing it. "How different?" she whispered. He parted his lips to answer. And then, a soft knock sounded at the door. Both of them froze. The moment shattered, leaving her suspended in the middle of a question she wasn't ready to lose. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. The knock came again, more hesitant this time, and something in Ethan's expression shifted in a way she couldn't read. Who could be at his door so late? The knock wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. It was the kind of knock someone used when they weren't entirely sure they should be there at all. But it still cut the moment in half. Ethan stood up slowly, like he wasn't thrilled about losing whatever he had been about to say. Myra felt the same. Her heart was still lifted, caught in the air between them with no place to land. "Are you expecting someone?" she asked. He shook his head. "No one." Another gentle knock followed. Ethan walked toward the door, quiet but cautious. He didn't open it right away. He paused, listening, then turned to Myra with a look she couldn't quite interpret. Not fear. Not annoyance. Just concern. He opened the door only a few inches. Myra couldn't see the visitor, but she could hear a soft voice, almost apologetic. "Sorry, Ethan," the person said. "I didn't mean to bother you this late." Ethan's jaw tightened slightly, though his tone stayed polite. "It's all right," he replied. "Everything okay?" The voice hesitated. "I thought you might still be awake. I needed to return this." A small object was handed through the crack, a set of keys. Ethan accepted them. "Thanks." "Sorry again," the visitor murmured. "Have a good night." "You too," he said. The door closed. Silence. Ethan stood there for a second, exhaling as if the interruption had taken more out of him than it should have. Myra tilted her head. "Neighbor." "Yeah," he said quietly. He locked himself out earlier. "Borrowed my spare." He dropped the keys onto the entryway table, but his shoulders had a tension she hadn't seen earlier. When he turned back toward her, though, his expression softened again. "Sorry about that." "It's okay," she said. "You looked surprised." He walked back toward the couch, but this time he didn't sit. He stood in front of her, hands in his pockets, gaze lowered for a moment before he met her eyes. He admitted. "I didn't want to lose the moment." The honesty pulled at something inside her. She swallowed. "What moment?" He gave a quiet, almost shy laugh. "The one where I was trying to tell you the thing I've been wanting to say for months." Her breath caught. There it was. The sentence that made the air shift again. The version of him she didn't know, the one who didn't hide his thoughts behind polite calm. He finally sat again, but this time even closer. Just a few inches nearer, but enough for her pulse to change rhythm. "Myra," he said softly, "I didn't expect tonight to go like this. I didn't expect you to stay. I didn't expect myself to say things out loud." She watched him carefully. "Then say them." He looked down at his hands. "I'm trying," he said with a breath. "But I don't want to say something at the wrong time." She shook her head gently. "There's no wrong time when you're being honest." He lifted his eyes to hers. Slowly. Deliberately. "That's the thing," he whispered. "I'm only this honest when it's just us." Myra felt a quiet warmth rise in her chest. A feeling she didn't expect from someone like him, someone who had always seemed almost impossible to read. He continued, voice steady but soft. "I act different when we're alone because I'm not trying to hold everything together. I'm not trying to blend into a group. I'm not trying to stay quiet so nobody notices me." She leaned in, heart steady but full. "And with me?" she asked. "With you," he said, "I don't feel like hiding." The words settled between them, gentle but powerful. Something unspoken but real. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't even look. Ethan glanced at it. "Your ride?" "Probably," she said, but her voice barely reached above a whisper. He hesitated, then spoke quietly. "Myra, can I ask you something? Something I should have asked a long time ago." She nodded, barely breathing. "What is it?" He held her gaze, steady and unguarded. "Do you ever feel it too?" he asked. "This shift between us when no one else is around?" Her lips parted, But no words came out. She wasn't sure how to answer. Not yet. Not without her voice shaking. The room felt warm and fragile, like one wrong word could break the moment entirely. Ethan waited, patient but hopeful, and her heart ached at the quiet sincerity in his eyes. Before she could speak, the hallway light outside flickered. Just once. But enough to pull her attention to the door. A soft hum sounded from the heater, followed by a gentle creak from the old wooden frame. Ethan glanced toward the sound, then back at her. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Myra, please tell me. Do you feel it too?" Her breath trembled. And then, a sudden vibration from her phone lit up the entire cushion beside her. Her driver had arrived. Right outside. And the moment slipped away again, leaving his unanswered question hanging in the quiet air between them. What would she say if she stayed just a little longer? Her phone screen glowed, bright enough to break the moment in half. "Your driver has arrived." Myra's heart sank a little. Not because she wanted to be rude, but because Ethan's question was still sitting between them, unanswered and trembling with meaning. Ethan looked at the screen, then at her, his expression unreadable. "You should probably go," he said softly, even though nothing about his tone sounded like he wanted that. She nodded, slow and uncertain. Her body moved before her heart did, and that made everything feel heavier. When she stood, Ethan stood too. He didn't step back. If anything, he stepped a little closer, like something in him wasn't ready to let the moment end. She reached for her bag. He watched her carefully. "You didn't answer me," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered. He swallowed, but he didn't push her. He never pushed her. That was part of what made this so overwhelming. He cared enough to ask, but deeply enough to wait. She walked toward his door while he followed behind her. Not rushing her. Not pressuring her. Just quietly hoping she'd say something before she left. She paused at the doorway. Ethan's apartment felt warm behind her. The hallway looked cold and dim. She glanced at him. He wasn't hiding anything now. His expression was open, steady, and a little vulnerable. "Myra," he said carefully, "if the answer is no, you can tell me. I won't feel strange about it." "It isn't no," she said immediately, surprising even herself. His breath caught. "But it isn't simple either," she added, softer. He nodded slowly, processing her words with that quiet, thoughtful patience she'd always admired in him. "I understand," he murmured. She looked down at her shoes, searching for courage she'd tried to ignore all night. "When I'm around you," she said carefully, "things feel different. And I don't always know how to explain that." When she glanced up again, the way he looked at her made her chest tighten. "Different in a good way?" he asked. "Yes," she breathed. Ethan exhaled, almost in relief. Not dramatic. Not heavy. Just a quiet release of something he'd been carrying for too long. But before either of them could say more, her phone buzzed again. "Driver waiting." She stepped out into the hallway. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets, eyes never leaving her face. "Will you text me when you get home?" he asked. "Of course," she replied instantly. He smiled, small and gentle. A smile she rarely saw from him. "Good," he whispered. She walked down the hall, but stopped halfway and turned back. Ethan was still at the door, still watching her like the moment mattered to him more than he was willing to say aloud. "I'm glad I stayed tonight," she said. He smiled again, softer this time. "Me too." And then she left. The cool night air met her face as soon as she stepped outside the building. Her driver was waiting in a quiet, idle hum, but Myra barely noticed. Her mind was entirely on the apartment behind her. On the warmth. On the stillness. On the words she had finally said. And especially on the ones she hadn't. The ride home felt longer than it should have. Every time she closed her eyes, she kept seeing the look Ethan gave her, that steady, gentle hope he wasn't hiding anymore. She reached her apartment, sent him a quick message, and sat on her couch staring at her phone. Part of her expected him to reply with something short and polite. Something simple. Something safe. But instead, his message popped up within seconds. "I'm still awake. And I'm still thinking about what you said." She felt her breath hitch. Another message arrived. I know the timing wasn't right tonight. But I don't want to pretend I didn't ask that question. Her heart thumped in her chest. Then the third message came. When we're alone, I feel like I can breathe in a way I don't feel around anyone else. I never wanted to scare you away by saying that out loud. She pressed a hand to her heart. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to reply without making everything bigger than she was ready for. But she also didn't want to lie. So she typed slowly, carefully. I felt it too. Even before tonight. She hit send. Her hands trembled. Only a moment passed before another message arrived. Then can we talk tomorrow? Not around anyone else this time. Just us. Her breath caught. She typed back, just as softly. Yes. She set her phone down. The room was silent, but her heart wasn't. Her thoughts weren't. All she could think about was tomorrow. Because if tonight had changed so much already, what would happen when they were alone again, without interruptions, without hesitation, without unanswered questions? She leaned back, closing her eyes. And that's when her phone buzzed once more. This time, it wasn't a message. It was his name on her screen. Ethan calling. Late at night. Unexpected. And her heart raced as she stared at it, wondering. Why would he call now, after everything they had already said? Myra stared at her ringing phone like it was something fragile she wasn't sure she should touch. Ethan never called this late. He barely called during the day unless he absolutely had to. Voice messages? Rare. Actual calls? Almost unheard of. Her heartbeat felt loud in the quiet of her apartment. She answered on the third ring. Ethan, she said softly. There was a breath on the line. Not rushed. Not panicked. Just thoughtful. Like he was standing somewhere in his apartment, holding the phone the same way she was. I'm sorry to call so late, he said. His voice was lower than usual, almost hesitant. I didn't want you to think I ended the night unsure. Or that I regretted anything. She sank slowly into her couch. I didn't think that, she whispered. I know, he said gently. I just needed to hear your voice again. Her breath caught. There it was. That version of him she didn't expect. The one who didn't hide behind small talk or quiet smiles. I shouldn't keep you awake, he added quickly. You're not keeping me awake, she said, cutting him off without meaning to. Silence. But the warm kind, like something inside both of them eased slightly. Ethan exhaled, soft and careful. I didn't ask you earlier, he said, but when you walked out, were you okay? Yes, she replied. Just overwhelmed. Because of me. She hesitated. Not because she didn't know the answer, but because she didn't know how honest to be at midnight with her heart in her throat. Yes, she whispered. Another soft silence. She could almost picture him running a hand through his hair the way he always did when he didn't know what to do with his emotions. I didn't mean to overwhelm you, he said. You didn't, she assured him. Ethan, you were just honest. I'm the one who didn't know how to respond. You didn't have to know, he murmured. I wasn't asking for anything tonight. She closed her eyes. He meant it, she felt it in every word he said. He wasn't rushing her. He never would. Then why call? She asked gently. He was quiet for a moment. Because, he said slowly, I realized something after you left. What? I've been acting like you should already know how I feel, without me actually telling you. Her chest tightened. She curled her fingers into the edge of a pillow, grounding herself. Ethan, she said softly, you don't have to explain everything tonight. I know, he replied. But I want to. Not all at once, just enough so you're not confused. She swallowed. What part do you want to explain? He took a breath. And she could tell, she could feel, this was something he'd been holding for a long time. Myra, he said gently, the reason I act different when we're alone is because you're the only person I feel safe enough to be myself with. Her heart shifted, warm and unsteady. I've liked you for a long time, he continued. But not in the way people assume. Not in some dramatic way. It's quieter. Something that grew slowly. Something I didn't expect. She pressed a hand to her chest, steadying herself. And tonight, he said, when you said you felt something too. I didn't know what to do with that. I still don't. She laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because it felt too real, too fragile. Ethan, she whispered, I'm not asking you to know everything right now. I know. His voice softened even more. That's why I'm asking if you're free tomorrow. Not for anything complicated. Just to talk. Really talk. Her eyes lifted to the ceiling as if the quiet room could help her breathe again. Yes, she said. I want that. He let out a small breath, relieved. Good, he murmured. I was scared you'd change your mind. I won't, she whispered. Another pause. A warm one. Myra, he said softly. Yes. Thank you for not walking away earlier. And thank you for telling me the truth. She smiled, even though he couldn't see it. You deserved the truth. I'm glad you think so. They stayed on the line for another minute. Not talking. Just existing in the same quiet. Eventually, he spoke again. You should sleep, he said gently. You too. Good night, Myra. Good night. She hung up slowly, letting the silence settle again. Only now, it felt different, warmer, fuller, threaded with something fragile but hopeful. She went to bed, expecting to fall asleep immediately. But her thoughts kept circling back to tomorrow. To the conversation they were finally going to have. To the truth they were no longer pretending not to feel. She closed her eyes, slowly drifting off. And then, just before sleep claimed her, her phone buzzed again with a final message from Ethan. Can we meet somewhere quiet? Somewhere just for us? A place just for them. And suddenly, tomorrow didn't feel frightening at all. It felt like the beginning of something they'd both been waiting for without realizing it. But what would happen when they finally sat across from each other with no more excuses and no more interruptions? Morning came softly. Myra woke earlier than she expected, long before her alarm, long before the world outside her window felt awake. She lay still for a moment, remembering every detail of last night, the shift in Ethan's voice, the way he had looked at her, the truth he finally let slip between them. And his message. A quiet place. Somewhere just for them. She felt a gentle flutter in her chest, nervous, hopeful, uncertain, all at once. By mid-morning, he sent another message. I know a spot by the lake. Small walkway. Quiet. I'll wait near the benches. Come whenever you're ready. She stared at the words for a moment before typing back. I'll be there in a little while. Her hands trembled as she got ready, not because she was afraid, but because after years of quiet glances and half-finished feelings, today felt like the moment neither of them could hide behind anymore. When she arrived, the air near the lake was calm. Barely any wind. A soft brightness settled over the water. And Ethan was already there. He stood near an old wooden bench, hands loosely in his pockets, watching the lake as though trying to steady himself. When he turned and saw her, something gentle crossed his expression, a mix of relief and something warmer. You came, he said quietly. Of course I did, she replied. He motioned toward the bench. They sat, leaving only a small space between them. Not distant. Not crowded. Just enough to feel familiar. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ethan exhaled. Myra, he said, I don't want to make this complicated. I just want you to understand what I meant last night. She nodded, waiting. He looked ahead at the lake, choosing his words carefully. I act different when we're alone because I trust you, he said. More than I trust anyone. Her breath softened. I'm quieter around other people, he continued. I hold myself back. I don't talk about how I feel. I don't show it. I've always been that way. He paused. But with you, I don't feel like I have to pretend. I don't feel like I have to fold myself into something smaller. She felt something inside her melt. He glanced at her then, slow, unsure, vulnerable. That's why I asked what I asked last night. I didn't want to surprise you. I just needed to know if I was imagining the way things shift between us. You weren't, she whispered. Ethan blinked, absorbing her words like they were something rare and fragile. You really feel it too? Yes, she said softly. For a long time. A quiet breath escaped him, almost like he'd been holding it for months. I thought I was the only one, he murmured. You weren't. He let out a small laugh, more of disbelief than humor. Then why didn't we say anything earlier, he asked. She smiled gently. Because we're both careful. Too careful, he admitted. Another silence settled, but this one felt warm, not uncertain. Ethan cleared his throat, turning slightly toward her. I don't want to rush anything, he said. I don't want to push you or make you feel like you owe me an answer to something huge. You're not rushing me, she replied. And I don't want to make this into some big dramatic moment, he added, brushing his thumb over his knuckles. I just want to be honest now. Really honest. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, waiting. He looked at her with a softness she hadn't seen before, not the shy looks, not the quiet glances, but something steady and open. Myra, he said, I care about you. In a way that's not confusing to me anymore. And I want to see where this could go, if you want that too. Her heart felt full in a way she couldn't describe. She didn't rush into words. She breathed, steady and slow, and let the truth come gently. I want that too, she said. He closed his eyes for a moment, like he needed the extra second to steady everything he was feeling. When he opened them, he wasn't smiling widely, that wasn't his way, but his expression softened into something unmistakable. Relief. Hope. Quiet joy. He shifted a little closer, careful and respectful. Then we take things slow, he murmured. We figure this out together. No pressure. No rushing. Just us. She nodded. I like that, she whispered. They sat there for a long time, not talking much, just letting the new reality settle between them. The honesty. The quiet. The shared understanding neither of them had the courage to name before. Ethan looked at her again, softer than ever. I'm glad you stayed last night, he said. She smiled. I'm glad I heard you. I'm glad I finally said something, he added. Me too. The breeze picked up gently, brushing past them as if carrying away all the hesitation they'd held onto for so long. Myra leaned back, letting the quiet comfort settle in her chest. Ethan shifted his hand slightly, not touching hers, not crossing any line, but close enough that she felt the warmth of it. An invitation. Not a pressure. She moved her hand just a little closer. Not touching. But near. They both noticed. Neither pulled away. And in that simple, quiet closeness, something settled. Something real, something steady, something new. This wasn't the dramatic kind of moment people wrote songs about. It wasn't loud or overwhelming. It was gentle. Warm. Earnest. A beginning. They sat there together, watching the light ripple across the lake, knowing something between them had finally shifted in the open, no longer a quiet feeling they carried alone, but something shared, something fragile, something full of promise. And as the morning sun rose a little higher, Ethan spoke one final time. Myra, thank you for seeing me. She looked at him with soft certainty. I always did. And with that, their unexpected moment finally found its place, not rushed, not complicated, simply real. A quiet beginning neither of them saw coming, but both of them were ready to grow into.